Welcome to the WDW News Today podcast. My name's Eric Morton. With me is Tom Corliss. Tom, how are you doing?
I'm well.
Is this episode 60?
I think it is.
All right, episode 60. I will tell you what.
No, it's 59.
We just published 59 this week.
We did?
That's usually how that works.
I think so.
Usually, leave this in.
On the computer.
It definitely says 59 on it.
So it's possible we skipped one at some point, but 60-ish. Episode
We think
60-ish.
this is episode 60.
Oh, there's 50.
Welcome to maybe episode 60.
It is 60.
The topic of this episode, and we will banter, of course, first because people like that, and then people that don't like it can just skip ahead.
No, first they have to comment and say they don't like it, and then they skip ahead.
Yeah. Disney's biggest mistakes of all time. Spoiler alert, this is going to be our topic for March Madness this year on WDW News Tonight. And you can help us set the field for some of Disney's biggest mistakes of all times. We're limiting this to parks-related mistakes.
They have to have affected the parks, yes.
Yeah. So we're going to jump into that. But first, since our last episode, we've been all over festivals, eating food everywhere.
Across the
and
country.
it was fun.
Yeah, we actually,
myself.
right? It's weird. We had, I don't know what it was about these two events, but we actually didn't have a miserable time.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I thought, number one, the food was for the most part very good at both, which is not something that always happens. Number two, I think, is we had a lot of help from additional WWNT staff on both coasts.
Yeah.
And so I think that just made for more pleasant. Usually 2 reviews in a week, and we're like, I just want to go.
Right.
At this point, I'm like, I'm going to go into the bed and never come out. But no, I'm good. I think it was all.
It was fun. I didn't think a sub 48-hour visit to Disneyland would be fun, but I had a great time, and we actually squeezed in our Din Tai Fung dinner. So.
Din Tai Fung, and you got to see New Haunted Mansion. So
And I got to see New Haunted Mansion.
yeah. Did we
Overall,
do anything
a
else?
success.
I think we didn't do anything.
Success. No, didn't get to do Pirates, but did Haunted Mansion. We did. I got to see the cannons working.
We went
Rise.
on Rise. That's right. Yeah.
So no, it was a great
pretty
time.
good.
I really enjoyed myself. No Radiator Sprint, no rides at DCA. I
Yeah.
don't think, because we were just over there eating,
Churning and burning.
churning and burning.
But also,
Meeting up
we
with
know
our
this
friends.
is going to be another. Last year was a rough Disneyland year. This is another rough Disneyland year for us because there's just so much happening, right? So we know we're going to be back. I mean, I know I'm back just for Season of the Force for a very short period at the end of the month, but then we'll be back May for the kickoff of the 70th.
No. You'll be back in April too.
What am I there for in April?
I don't know.
No, I'm at Hollywood. I may not go to Disneyland.
Just Universal Studios? Okay.
Those Fan Fest nights.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought there was a Disneyland.
I don't
angle
think
there.
we're going to go to Disneyland.
Okay.
Because I think that's at that point we'll be properly exhausted.
Yeah.
So I think it'll just be cover that event and go home at that point. But yeah, no. So May 16th is the Disneyland 70th kickoff.
I'll be there.
Yep, we'll be there for that. And then July 17th is going to be essentially phase 2 of that event, which will be the new verse at Small World and the opening of Walt Disney: A Magical Life. And I'm sure there'll be more in July. And then obviously Halloween will happen and Christmas will happen at the Disneyland Resort. So we know we have at least probably 4 to 5 more trips to Anaheim this year.
No, that's fine. I love going to Disneyland. It's
I
a
do
great
too.
place. There's going to be a whirlwind of stuff going on. And yesterday there were a ton of major announcements about the 70th.
Yeah.
And it was kind of overshadowed by a guest pooping on the wall of Cosmic Rewind.
Note, we filmed these. This is being filmed on Friday. You'll see that the rest of the world sees it on Tuesday. The WIGS members are watching live now, which you could join at patreon.com/WDWNT. They're watching live. So when Eric says yesterday, we're talking about Thursday of last week for those of you watching later.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So all this great news that's important, and then there was human waste everywhere in the queue of Cosmic Rewind. So that dominated the news cycle.
Surprised. Then the guy who jumped out on Tiana.
Yeah, and the guy jumped out on Tiana. So there's always some kind of guest event that seems to overshadow the big stuff, but a lot coming for the 70th anniversary of Disneyland, a lot to be excited about, a lot that people are complaining about that it's underwhelming or whatever. But
The regurgitation celebration, it's all returning things.
yeah, well, it's celebrating an anniversary of things that used to be. So maybe, but you get Duffy and Lena Bell.
No,
No, Duffy and Shelley May.
Yeah, in the cavalcade.
Yeah. So
There's a couple things I'm excited for. Tapestry of Happiness, which is the projection show on Small World, promises it'll be full of park music and park moments. So I'm excited about that. We didn't get a park-related fireworks show for the 70th, but we have that.
Is that a like this is a defined show and it's X minutes long, or is this like all night long? They just have this on there because
I think it's a set show. It's a set projection-only show. Obviously, then Wondrous Journeys is coming back as the fireworks show. It won't have fireworks every night for the whole event. On select nights, it'll have fireworks, which is nonsense. But if you've been to Disneyland, you know there's no guarantee fireworks are going to run anyway, I guess. Walt Disney A Magical Life is very exciting. Can't wait to see if they nail that or not. I'm really excited about the Small World verse. And it's a weird thing to be excited about. I'm just so curious how the music department is going to pull that off. Like, how do you either wrap that into the existing score from 1964, or did you re-record the whole thing?
Right.
I'm dying to know.
Muppets at World of Color. Boys to Men. World of Color.
And Fitz and the Tantrums
And
doing
Fitz
songs for
without
it.
the tantrums.
No, there are two good World of Color shows. There is original, regular World of Color, which is phenomenal. My favorite nighttime show of all time.
Glow with the Showtime.
Well, that was later,
good
but
to-
yeah. Or was that with the open? No, it was a little later. It was a little later.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, a year or two later. And then Season of Light,
Season of
the
Light.
Christmas show I like.
Season of Light was boring until the end, and then the end makes everything worth it.
It's aged a little bit. It could use an upgrade, but I love that ending. That ending is fantastic. All the other World of Color Celebrate for the 60th was the worst one, bar none. World of Color 1 has its moments, but it's just not great. And then the first Christmas show they ever did was a nightmare. It was terrible. And then, of course, there was the one-year-only villain show for Oogie Boogie Bash, and then it never came back.
Real quick, before we jump in, I do want to talk about Haunted Mansion, right?
Yeah,
Because
go.
it's my first time experiencing the Haunted Mansion with the new bride and some of these new sort of lighting effects.
Should
and
we
things
save this for an honest review?
I don't know.
I think we should save this, do an honest review of all the changes, the queue and the new scenes and the store.
Okay.
And
Well,
you and I can do it together.
you can watch our video. It's out there. Let us know.
Well, it's
what
not
you
out
think.
there yet, but
Don't we have a video?
well,
We
video of the
posted-
ride, yeah, but our honest review we'll have to film.
There's a video of the ride. The new bride
we
is the
should do that.
highlight, right? So check it out.
Yeah,
And the queue, all that kind of stuff.
a lot of weird new stuff.
And then we'll tell you whether or not we liked it later. Wow. And obviously our reviews are all up for DCA Food and Wine, another review for Flower and Garden at Epcot, and then a top and bottom 7 video for those that don't want to sit through, 2 hours, an hour and 45 minutes or whatever of review, a condensed version of our review. They're all out there on our channel, so check them out. And also, I'm told to remind people, like, hey, please like and subscribe, because we always leave that out. That's like YouTube 101 is like, please like and subscribe, and we either save it wait till the end, or we forget about it. There's a lot going on in the world right now, so like and subscribe if you would, and support our sponsors. So we were out at Disneyland. You want to check out DCA Food and Wine Festival, or you live somewhere else, you want to come down for Flower and Garden, hit up our friends at Be Our Guest Vacations. Go to www.nt.travel, and they will help craft your next magical trip. Best part is their services are 100% free.
Or book an Alaska cruise so you could see Piano Rob perform on a Disney Alaska cruise.
Are we allowed to tell people the dates that Piano
He
Rob
posted it, yeah. It's
Yeah.
the July 21st to the 28th on the Wonder.
Yeah, he'll be on the Wonder, go on your Alaska cruise and hang out with Piano Rob.
I'm still trying to figure out if schedule-wise or money-wise we can make that happen.
I so want to go.
We'll talk about it.
so
I don't
wanna
know.
go,
I'd,
but
I'd like to do. I want to go back to Alaska. We did the weird short one, the 5-day, 2 years ago. 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
And I loved it, and I was very sad. I was like, I got to come back and do the like real one.
Yeah.
And so maybe we'll see what happens. Today's show is brought to you by the Carousel of Products at carouselofproducts.com. We got 3 brand new button-up shirts, which I need so I don't have to wear this Runaway Railway shirt again. 3 new button-up shirts. We have Spaceship Sunset, which is Spaceship Earth at sunset. 50 Years of Space, celebrating 50 years of Space Mountain around the world. And our cheap 3D tricks, marking the upcoming closure of Muppet Vision 3D. If you buy all three in a bundle, you save $15. You then also can apply your Wigs discount if you are a Wigs member on top of it. And don't forget, we're still taking pre-orders for Sunny Eclipse Plush or Intergalactic Lounge Singer.
The Intergalactic Lounge Singer.
Whatever.
Get it right, Tom.
You know what it is.
He can be yours. We'll send him
Pre-order. These are all
we'll send him your
pre-order.
way, all the way from New York.
Yeah, on the planet Zork. So all these for pre-order right now. Get them at carouselofproducts.com. Don't miss out. We're running out of sizes already.
There's a lot going on in the world, so we appreciate you taking a few minutes to hang out with us and talk about Disney stuff. Talk about, hopefully, things that make you happy. But this episode, I hope it's not a downer, but we are talking about the biggest mistakes of all time. But people are passionate about that stuff, so we're going to want your feedback too, because we are going to be setting the field for our Field of 64 for March Madness, and this is not probably going to be comprehensive. We're going to start getting it ready, and hopefully between the Wigs who are watching live, if you want to be a Wigs member, you can go to patreon.com/WDWNT, and you can, at $7 and above every month, they are able to watch live with us while we record, also do post shows for other shows and things like that. But between the community and the Wigs, hopefully we come up with a solid field of 64 of the biggest mistakes of all time from Disney, right? Where to begin, I don't know, but I made a list. Tom, an early odds-on favorite. I'm sure Tom has Runaway Railway, and we will get to that.
You don't want to just put it down now? It's going to make this list.
Okay.
Closing the Great Movie Ride.
Do we want to discuss it?
No, because we're supposed to really discuss this in depth at March Madness. That's kind of the idea. So we can talk about just if it deserves to be there. I think there are three. Let's just get these three out of the way.
Okay.
There are three things Disney World has closed that people still complain about. And it's Great Movie Ride, and it's Horizons, and it's the original Journey into Imagination. So I think those three just have to be there. Mr. Toad?
That elicited protests in the park. Mr. Toad has to be in there.
Put Mr. Toad. $20K? There might be a whole bracket that's just things that close, like closing things. I mean, closing Muppet Vision, it hasn't happened yet, but it's happening. I think that goes down there, too. It'll be hard to judge how historically significant that is immediately. Obviously, we have some idea of how that's going to impact the fandom, but, over time, you get a better grasp of what the impact will actually be.
I want to, try to have some sort of structure. So
He's like,
we've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
ruining my structure.
6 things. But, there's a difference between maybe divisive changes and outright failures of things.
Yeah.
So, for instance, we could say rocket rods, right, at Disneyland.
Big mistake.
But I'll put it on here.
That and Superstar Limo are the two that immediately come to mind, like attractions that just completely failed, whether technically or from a guest satisfaction standpoint, to the point at which they barely exist for either, in the case of Limo, under a year, in the case of Rocket Rods, slightly over a year.
And part of me wants to be less kind to the newer things because you think they'd learn from past mistakes of things they've done, and in some cases they haven't. I think first I want to touch on some park policies and operational changes that I think are worthy of this. The Disney Park reservation system.
Yeah. That goes on there.
I'll put this over here.
I'm with you on that. The stream is gone, said Beam.
Is it gone? The Wigs are here. We are streaming live, so occasionally we will.
I can't seem to find it. The stream is
I don't know. Mandy said, is this March Madness
Yes,
for all Disney,
Disney
parks
parks
of all time? Yes.
Yes.
All of them around the world, yes.
And I will say this: our perspective is
He's talking about something else. Never mind.
our perspective is colored by our experience, right? So
Yeah.
my experience is going to be heavily Walt Disney World and Disneyland. I acknowledge there are probably mistakes that get made all around the world with Disney parks. I will touch on some of them.
Yeah.
But for the maybe those are more general. Okay, so I have park reservation system, the introduction of Genie Plus and Lightning Lane.
Charging, getting rid of free
Yeah, paid
pass.
fast
I would
pass.
put it under getting rid of free. Yeah, put that all under
I'll just put
one.
paid fast
all
pass,
under
yeah.
one. Yeah.
Annual pass holder restrictions and park hopping rules.
That falls under park reservation
Okay.
system.
The rise of paid after-hours events.
Hard ticket events in general. Yeah, that's certainly in the conversation. Did the Christmas parties and Halloween parties and after hours and Disneyland, did those ruin the experience?
Another one, we could just say the death of legacy annual passes at Disneyland. That was a real PR disaster for Disney, the whole Magic Key lawsuit.
I'd put that.
We'll just leave it in the other one or make it its own category.
That's its own thing.
Okay.
What they did to Disneyland annual pass holders during COVID alone is legacy pass holder. That was wild. Forgot about that. They just turned they got rid of all of our annual passes and then made us legacy pass holders until they came out with Magic Key, which arguably is not really a different thing. It just wasn't a way to rebuild the system as they wanted it to be.
Closing and gutting free perks. This is mostly post-COVID. End of Disney's Magical Express.
Magical Express deserves to be on
free
there.
Fast Pass, free resort parking, things that have come and gone.
Well, we've got Fast Pass.
I'll put Magical
but
Express.
Magical Express for sure has to be there.
Free bread, but it came right back.
That came back. We saved that, so it doesn't count. Bears would have been on this list, but they stopped that from happening.
I would also like to say Tables in Wonderland, but maybe I'm just selfish. Getting rid of Tables in Wonderland.
You could put it down. It may not make it, but we could put it down. The problem with that one is it affects so few of us. Like, it affects us as like hardcore fans that went all the time. But did it really? Does that put it under the 64 biggest mistakes the parks and resorts have ever made? Probably not.
Sure. If you're watching, you don't know what Tables in Wonderland is. Maybe you're new to the Disney fandom, or you are not local. It was a discount card you could purchase. I think the first one I bought was like $50, and it would get you, was it 20% off of food, and free valet park and free valet
alcohol,
and 20% discount and free valet parking at the resorts. It was a great perk, and as soon as COVID hit, they were like, "Oh, we can't wait to get rid of this thing," and they did. A general one. This could be a million things, but Bob Chapek era cost cutting. Price hikes, lack of investment.
Mistake putting Bob Chapek in charge of parks and resorts. That's undoubtedly a mistake. And there's, while we're in that vein, Paul Pressler and Cynthia Harris get their own. They both get a slot. Paul, for as much as I hate Bob Chapek, Pressler and Harris definitely worse because people actually died. The lack of maintenance spent on the parks killed someone on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. So, you can blame a lot of things on Bob Chapek. He doesn't have that on his resume, at least.
All right. We have some attraction changes and removals already on here. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, I have that.
Yeah.
That was a big one. I mean, like I said, fans protested in the parks.
Country Bears in California, I would say. That's like that and the People Mover are the two they go on and on about. I think both of those. I mean, you could put that under Rocket Rods, though. I think you combine that with Rocket Rods, probably. Okay. People Mover. Or maybe leaving it empty for so long as its own separate.
Because it's still its own.
Yeah.
It's still a really bad look for the park. If you don't get out to Disneyland very often, the track for the People Mover / Rocket Rods is still there. Just weeds are growing out of it.
Yeah.
It's unsightly. Nothing. They're not doing anything with it. It just looks bad. All right. The retheme of Tower of Terror to Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout.
I don't think you can make it. It was too successful. It worked.
Yeah.
We can argue like that building's hideous. There's no doubt, but that worked. I mean, there way more people ride that. That is a way longer wait than Tower did at that park. It makes money. People always talk about it in their favorite attraction conversation. So like we could talk about aspects of it being a mistake, as in where it is and what, how some of it was executed, but undoubtedly a success.
The removal of Maelstrom for Frozen Ever After, the classic Epcot ride. Did it deserve the fate?
It's hard to argue.
You say yes or no?
No, I'm saying like yeah, I love Maelstrom and I miss it, but that was clearly the right decision.
Okay. Obviously, Splash Mountain has got to be
Splash,
on there.
yeah. People, I think we owe it to people to put Splash on there.
One that I put down was replacing Test Track 1.0 with futuristic sim theme.
I still don't think it's the 64 biggest mistakes of all time.
Maybe getting World of Motion, but
it's
not as big as Horizons.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, we want to really get into the weeds. 2008 Spaceship Earth, that ruining the ending with that jib jab video. But again, is that top 64? I don't know. How about leveling the center of Epcot? How about the Epcot reimagining in general? I think that's got to go down as a mistake, and that includes all of that World Celebration disaster and Harmonious and all that. All gets one thing. Rivers of Light. How about Rivers of Light? Built a whole amphitheater for that. You want to put kite tails on there?
Sure.
People hate kite tails. I'd be happy to argue that I don't think that was that bad.
Let the kite tails hit the floor. Billy can put that in there if people haven't seen it before.
Let the kite tails hit the floor. Let the kite tails hit the floor. Let the kite tails hit the floor. Let the kite tails hit the
We got Journey.
Frank
to
Wells
Imagination.
getting into the helicopter. Come on. Look,
Oh man, come on.
someone asked genuinely the question, which is like, obviously it's morbid, but Frank Wells, obviously Frank Wells dying can't be a mistake. But yeah, getting in the helicopter would be. But obviously, yeah, Frank Wells. I think when we used to do like whatever biggest moments in the history. I think we did
that's a
50
big
biggest
moment,
moments in the history of Disney World. Frank Wells dying was absolutely one of them. I mean, it had a tremendous impact, but it's not. It can't be a mistake, right?
What about the overhaul of Pirates of the Caribbean? Various changes, including
The redhead scene.
the
auction.
redhead scene, auction scene.
Yeah, it's worth discussing, I think. Oh, DAS.
Oh God, Dash.
What
has
happened
to be
with
on
DAS this year? Yeah, I agree
Absolutely.
with that.
there. The failure, one of Magic Kingdom's biggest duds of all time, Stitch's Great Escape. What do you think?
I don't know if it's in the 64. I don't know that it has that big of a impact.
Yeah, I mean
Like,
it's
a terrible attraction. One
they've
of the
decided
worst.
just an empty building is
But
better.
Alien Encounter didn't succeed very much
Yeah.
either, as much as I love Alien Encounter.
Okay, I want to go to some like failed or botched expansion type of stuff. We have Epcot already. Original DCA.
Yeah. If you're going to go down that road, we got two others in that vein to talk about real quick, which is Walt Disney Studios Paris and the original attempt at Hong Kong Disneyland.
Disney Quest.
I think Disney Quest was a mistake. Getting rid of Disney Quest was a mistake. But how many people went down to the West Side to begin with, right? Like, that's the problem. Yeah, I know. Like,
Was it a mistake to cancel Disney's America?
it could be argued, but
You
what's
want me
funny
to
is
put
I
it on
think
the
they
list?
didn't they end up building a mall anyway in that plot after all that fighting? It ended up being a mall.
And leave it off the list?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Um,
Disney Sea not getting built in Long Beach, not building Westcott, but that falls under DCA.
yeah. I have two on the list that are Epcot, right? We can their shift away from its original vision is one.
Yeah.
To like an IP driven theme. The other would be the decline of Future World. We can just put the reimagining of Epcot as one umbrella, or are those two?
Well, the IP inclusion at Epcot begins way before
Yeah,
the reimagining, right? So we can just say starting to infuse IP into Epcot because that predates that reimagining by 15 years, something like that. It's way before.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said Shanghai Disneyland. I would agree. Shanghai Disneyland, that financial impact for a while was rough. And yeah, it succeeded big, but post-COVID, Bob Iger basically now has come out and said, like, we don't expect to make money from Shanghai anymore.
You could actually make a case that Disneyland Paris put the company in greater peril than Shanghai Disneyland.
Paris should
ever
go
did.
down too. Yeah, the opening of Disneyland Paris, too many resort hotels.
Or I'll just call it Euro Disney.
Yeah, just put Euro Disney. That was a disaster. Yeah, beautiful park. The end result, thankfully, was great.
Okay.
But yeah, Shanghai was a nightmare, and it's basically 5 years after open, it went from like Bob Iger standing on stage going like, "We're so proud of what Shanghai is accomplishing," to him being like, "Yeah, whatever, it happened."
Cancellation of Beastly Kingdom.
The budget cuts of Animal Kingdom, yeah, I could get along with that. Yeah, there were a lot more. It wasn't just Beastly Kingdom, right? Like Tiger River Rapids getting cut down into Kali River Rapids. There are a lot of budget cuts on that park. It turned out better than the three others that followed it, but
Yes.
but it fared better, but it's still not perfect.
Avengers Campus.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let us know in the comments if you agree. Some people
I'd throw
love
in the
Avengers.
Toy Story lands, all of them.
I definitely have that on here.
All those Toy Story lands are they're like little fairs. It's a cheap way to add capacity. They're all outdoor flat rides. Yeah.
People love Slinky Dog Dash, man.
The promises of Galaxy's Edge not being fulfilled.
That was actually
I'm absolutely on board with that one. That came from Disney Mike.
that's a good one, Mike. On top of that, Galactic Star Cruiser. Colossal failure.
Yeah, no matter what it achieved, no matter how great the experience was, still a mistake. Whether the mistake is opening it or the mistake was giving up on it so quickly, a mistake was made either way.
All right. My Magic Plus, basically all the whole Magic, $1 billion investment in Magic Bands and all this.
It could be argued.
It's good for their business. It's
It
bad
ended
for
up working
guests, I
out
think.
eventually, but it was, forever it was rough.
All right, what's next?
Like someone said Disney Vacation Club. JRC99 said Disney Vacation Club, which in some aspects, yes, and in some aspects, it's a huge success for them.
I mean, they are the people that are willing to spend money on stuff. Right?
How about we just
we'll
put
come
in
and
like
take over this abandoned attraction and put a lounge there?
Tower hotels? How about Tower hotels being a mistake? Right? I think that works.
We're getting
Just
there,
the
man.
propensity of Tower hotels, which that isn't only DVC. Like Grandestino gets thrown in there too.
Disney Quest. This will be controversial. It was a failure.
Was it a mistake? Is it a mistake
It's
to
a
try
failure.
something? It lasted a long time. For being a failure, it was there for what, 20 years?
Yeah.
Almost. Did it fit? They tried something new. It didn't necessarily work, but it still operated for a long time.
All right, so it doesn't make the list.
I don't think so.
Okay.
NBA experience. The
That's
NBA
a tenant, though.
experience
That's not
is
really Disney,
They
though.
worked with them on
but
it.
they're
That was
a
a Disney
tenant.
creation.
Yeah. Okay.
The NBA experience it lasted such a short amount of time with the hundreds of millions of dollars spent. Like, that's a disaster.
I think something stupid about that. I know we're not getting deep into all these, but something stupid about that is like they had that NBA cafe at like City Walk.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like you almost were like, well, I've already been to an NBA thing at Universal. Why do I want to go to this NBA thing at Disney? I don't know. That was let's see. We kind of touched on this already, kind of overuse of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge as a sequel trilogy only, the story of Galaxy's Edge. I think it's
That'll fall into that.
those are like
Galaxy's
the
Edge
main
one,
ones
yeah.
that I have. That gives us 1, 2, 3, 4.
Jordan brought up a great memory, which is the Tomorrowland cabanas.
We're at like 38 or 39. Oh, yeah.
Put the Tomorrowland.
I never even
cabanas.
saw them. They lasted.
I wanted to do it so bad. Josh and I were going to do it, and then they ended them right before we.
They
did
didn't
it.
last. I mean, they didn't last more than a
Couple weeks.
couple weeks, right? It was
Yeah.
it $700?
I forget. I'm sure we could look it up on our website.
Yeah, a lot of people don't remember this. They put
They were not themed. They were just little tents,
in Tomorrowland that you
like
could rent.
cabanas at a pool.
Yeah.
And they were just, you can go in them and you could drink water and have little snacks and stuff like that. And that was all it was. And then
It was like $700.
and then they disappeared. Yeah. Which I think, in the end, I think that's probably when they were like, you know what, why don't we just do Club 33?
Yeah. I talk about this often, but like the stratification of guest experience in general. I don't know if that's I don't know how to describe it. Tiered.
Just class, class warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We can think about that a little more, but that's a good point. Yeah.
All right, so those are all the ones that I have written down.
Guys have
We
some
still
silly ones.
Plenty.
Jason wrote the Disney Store and Terminal C being smaller than Universal's. Oh boy.
I mean, we could go on a whole Disney store thing, but it really doesn't touch parks.
It doesn't touch parks.
But if it did, yeah. What about like the monorails? The lack of spending on monorails.
Said that, but they've become way more reliable since they started fixing them one by one.
Yeah.
I talk about them not taking the deal with Siemens.
Was it Siemens or Bombardier?
Siemens.
With Siemens. Yeah.
Bombardier was supposed to. They were bought through Bombardier, but they couldn't help them anymore. Siemens offered them free monorails, but they'd have to say Siemens on them, and Disney said no, and that's why Siemens got out of their deal. That's why they left Spaceship Earth and all of that. The new deal was supposed to be, oh well, we'll give you these monorails, but they have to have the Siemens name and branding on them, and Disney said no.
Here's one that I think a lot of people will agree with, but a lot of people will disagree, is the addition of alcohol into the castle parks.
Alcohol castle, yeah. I'm on board with that. A lot of people argue that, yeah. Eggs wants removing the audience participation in the Indiana Jones stunt show. I don't know if that's big enough.
It's good though. I like it.
Other good ones.
You know, I don't want to get into the like small changes that are like a niche of people are passionate about. Yeah. I know a lot of people were upset about like losing Trails End. A lot of that Fort Wilderness changes, getting rid of the Fort Wilderness Railroad, a lot of these type of things
that earlier. But yeah, what's I think the Fort will fall under Tower Hotels because of the connection to Reflections in that project. Yeah, we'll put it in there. Yeah. But that's a good one. They ruined Fort. Yeah, those cabins. Oh, cabins. Gross.
The ruining of Fort Wilderness. We've got a good start going.
This one's small but mighty. The Osborne, getting rid of the Osborne lights. Yes. Getting rid of the Osborne lights. That was Chris sent it. Chris Grubb with that one.
Can I also add Lights of Winter and Dream Lights? I mean,
the castle. I'd be on board with the castle because it's Cinderella Castle and so many millions of people loved it. That one I think has to go on there.
Some of these are things that there was no reason to get right. So whatever you think the merits of the Tiana's Bayou Adventure edition and replacement of Splash Mountain, there was there were people up in arms about it. There was a movement, a petition to get rid of it. Now there was a larger petition to keep it, but there was some groundswell of opposition to it. Nobody was like, get rid of those Castle Dreamlights or get rid of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. These are things that they just did, right? That I think there's bonus points for how negative these are because they were things that everyone loved.
Yeah.
And same with the Osborne family. Like we know the Osborne family lights they had to get rid of because of they needed real estate there to do other things. But the Dreamlights, no excuse, right?
It's just money.
Just money.
Well, some of it was PhotoPass. People hated that they had castle photos for weeks on end with cranes in them. So people felt like their once-in-a-lifetime trip to Disney World, their castle photo was ruined by the crane. And so they thought the solution was, well, just go to projections. But, I mean, the Dreamlights were fantastic.
Do you think pressure for that decision came from PhotoPass?
There's a lot of money at stake there. A lot of guest complaints. Yeah, there's a lot of money. Let's not forget Harmonious. The real thing that got Harmonious thrown out, that's in the reimagining of Epcot.
Okay.
Harmonious, most of what killed Harmonious was PhotoPass at Epcot.
Yeah.
They were not doing well because no one wanted lagoon pictures because there's this big mess of garbage in the middle. And the other thing that happened were numbers were down at restaurants in the evening. All the World Showcase restaurants were not showing the numbers they had during Illuminations.
Mm-hmm. Disney Enchantment? Are we going to get into the
50th anniversary of Walt Disney World? Let's just put that in there. That deserves to be there. That was the biggest disappointment like ever. Kite Tails then ends up going in there.
Yeah. I think the Earful Tower, Earful Tower, and then that kind of dovetails into a lot of things about sort of the original vision of Hollywood Studios.
Yeah.
I'm going to put two of them in there then.
Yeah, we'll see how much that falls. Some of that falls into Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land, right? Because why that all happened. The reimagining of Hollywood studios, which we're kind of still experiencing.
Yeah, like I don't know how to express my frustration with like the lack of use of the animation courtyard and taking real estate that they don't need to take. That from my perception, yeah, just put it under Muppets. But I mean, just the fact that they brought back that Voyage of the Little Mermaid, the new Little Mermaid show is a little weird. You could say, I know I have not seen the new Finding Nemo show. I know a lot of people are passionate that the old one was better. Or worse, or whatever.
Way
People,
better.
yeah. So I don't know if that's pretty in the scope of the history of Disney parks. That's a pretty minor thing to complain about.
How about the Main Street Electrical Parade farewells? How none of them were real. Like none of them, they stuck to none of them.
It was like a Kiss final concert.
Yeah, they just kept doing it, and also it was a mistake, right? Because Light Magic falls under that, which Light Magic was a disaster.
Can I just put Spectro Magic in here?
Getting rid of Spectro Magic, leaving
Nighttime
that
Parade,
out in the sun to rot. Yeah, put Spectro down. Sure, we could. We could. If we hit 64, we could always cut some of these back.
I feel like that's a bad one. Firing a dog. It's not really parks related. They did fire a dog though. That's always going to bother me.
I have one.
Yeah.
Treatment of cast members during COVID, where not only did that demoralize frontline cast members at the parks, we're also talking about Walt Disney Imagineering. How many great Imagineers were lost in that period? Like so many of them went away and did not come back, and I think we're still suffering from that.
So even after COVID, were people that were given an ultimatum to say, are you moving to Florida or are you quitting? And then
I think
the ones that
Lake Nona falls under COVID era. I think Lake Nona's in there.
I'll just leave it there as Lake
Nona. That's all one thing, I think.
I think something that has impacted the parks but was not a parks decision could be the purchase of 20th Century Fox and the debt that came along with that. But moreover, I think it's hard to put your finger on it, but you could say like bringing Bob Iger back, even though it was done to get rid of Bob Chapek, which was a good thing. I think there are ways that it has also kind of damaged the company moving forward. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bob Iger coming back. And look,
how about
everybody applauded that decision to get rid of Chapek, but Bob Iger is not blameless on a lot of these things that are on this list.
How about monorails? Not necessarily just the maintenance of monorails, but the refusal to expand the system, like giving up on it, moving to the Skyliner, like the monorail is synonymous with Disney, and they've given up on it. We'll probably never see another one again.
Yeah,
it's something that's such a core Disney thing. Has been like it's no longer. It's they don't build resorts with them anymore. Hong Kong, Shanghai, like nothing since Disney World has got. Well, eventually Tokyo got it when they built Disney Sea, but
I know someone's being a little tongue in cheek when they said DVC, but I think the sort of letting DVC run wild could be on the list somewhere. Just put
DVC. I know we put Tower Hotels, but put DVC. It also falls a little under your class warfare thing or pay to play. It falls under a lot of those things.
Let's put DVC when we talk about it.
Atmospheric entertainment, Citizens of Hollywood, Citizens of Main Street, like the Pandora Drummers, the COVID loss of atmospheric entertainment at Disney World, yeah.
You could say Disneyland too. Disneyland's been cutting things like crazy, but
they have, but it hasn't reached that point. They didn't cut anything that was like an immortal. The Citizens of Hollywood were opened with that park and was like the heart and soul of it. It was ripped out. But so Beam said changing of the meet and greets to pure lines instead of character interactions like Disneyland. Beam, that had to happen. As someone who used to do a lot of characters as a kid, like go and meet characters and get autographs, I do that a lot in a trip. I will tell you, like the gather in a circle around the character and get picked out thing stopped working at Disney World. It needed to be controlled. And so building permanent places with lines needed to be a thing. And Disneyland even had to do it for Mickey, right? It had to happen. But Disney World had to do it in general. Like, it got too out of control. So I understand that we may not like that change, but I will tell you, like, if you go to Japan and it's still like old times, but like Disney World level interest, right? So in Japan, like 40, 50, 60 people gather around a character. Maybe you happen to get picked out by the character, get a picture. Maybe you don't, which isn't necessarily the most fair thing. Is that really better? And I don't think that'd fly in America. I don't think you could do that. I don't think you do it at Disneyland Paris. I don't think you do it at any of them. Other than Disneyland. Disneyland gets away with it because it's a local park.
Getting rid of the Skyway, there are thematic arguments against the Skyway, some safety stuff, but the Disneyland Skyway in particular, going through the Matterhorn and everything, I think they got rid of it just so they could take that money and put it in Indiana Jones Adventure.
There were some safety, but there were also some safety and maintenance concerns, which I understand. It also it was an antiquated thing. It's one of those things, like, I know at Disney World we're talking about getting rid of the riverboat and the island, but it's one of those things. The shooting arcade's a better example. The time passed the shooting arcade by. Yeah. That wasn't a thing. That was a waste of real estate. Is it better as a DVC lounge? No. But time passed that by, and the time of the shooting arcade at a theme park in America, that time has gone. Now, the one at Disneyland, if you want to preserve that for all time, that's great. That's Disneyland. That's Walt's Park. That's American, the beginning of the American theme park, beginning of theme parks in general. So, like, preserving that history there is great. At Disney World, is there a reason to hang on to things like a Skyway and a shooting gallery and a big playground in the middle of water? Like, those things just don't mean anything to the people coming here today. Not even, and they don't mean anything real historically. Like, I never walked by Tom Sawyer Island and go, man, that's such an important part of the entire Walt Disney World experience. It never was. It wasn't the first one. It wasn't the last one. It's not. There's nothing special about it. It's kind of crumbling upon itself. Make it something that'll mean something to people. Like, look, you still have to do something better. It has to be more beautiful and better, whatever goes there, being the cars. Like, they have to achieve that in order for it to not be a mistake. But I don't believe that's a mistake. That being said, if you want to put the Rivers of America on there, because there's plenty of people that feel that way, we'll have the conversation. And maybe other people feel different.
Look, and there are a lot of things that are like that they've done that I think that if they had a mulligan that they would do over again that were mistakes. Most of these are like operational things, right, where they've had to work around them in the future. But like one I can think of is, Main Street USA in both of the parks gets crowded, and you can get these bypasses, when it's really crowded, to walk around and through, where they've kind of thrown together something that makes it not look terrible when you go back there. But I think, like you talk about Disneyland Paris, like clearly they knew the answer, right? They know the answer now of what they should do with a Main Street USA. It's a matter of, of willingness and space, I guess. So I think there are mistakes that were made in the past that they've learned from, but I don't necessarily think that those rise to a level of like, you did something really stupid.
Like World Bazaar, I love Japan. The Tokyo parks are my favorite in the world. World Bazaar sucks. Yeah. It's ugly. It's always dreary in there because it has a roof on it. Yeah. It's just weird and dark and feels dingy. Like, that was a huge mistake. But then they built Paris. They're like, we ain't doing that again. And they built the arcades on the side, which was great. But I don't know if that falls under the 64 biggest mistakes they've ever made.
We've got a good list going now.
We do have a good list going.
We don't have 64 yet, but we will by the time we get done between the audience and our WIGS members. 1, 2, 3.
Will these be a WIGS exclusive March Madness? No. The 64 most awesome things, that's too hard. That's way too hard to figure out. They've done too much right in time. We will figure out. There's always a WIGS exclusive tournament that we do on the post show for News Tonight. We have to figure out what that's going to be. It's usually something silly. Last year it was my shirts. It was 64 of my button-up shirts last year.
The year before that was it bathrooms?
Yes.
Bathrooms. We've done cast costumes. They're usually like cool ideas that we couldn't do as a mainline segment because enough people wouldn't care. But it's something that it's weird and kooky and fun for the WIGS members.
Yeah, we're at 53 right now.
Oh, we did guest incidents too. That
Oh,
was
yeah,
a
the
Wiggs
best
one.
guest
The guest
incidents.
incidents. That was a good
Well, we
one.
got a new one,
We got 2 this week.
but we got one in
But the
particular
poop
that will
is- yeah.
resonate. And
But how many times has that just not been filmed? We've missed the other million times that's happened.
yeah.
But now we live in the worst age of civilization where a person picks up a phone and is like, I'm going to film this poop. I'm going to film the poop.
I'm going to just say my Disney experience, the transition from experiencing a park to like kind of planning your day and being stuck with your face in your phone all day. I don't know if it's not, I'm not blaming my Disney experience exclusively, but it's part of this, reliance on app. I don't know what we're calling it.
I have 2 interesting ones after that. One would be not building Epcot the city.
Okay.
And number 2 would be wasting their time on Celebration, which was taken from them anyway, which is why they shouldn't have built Epcot.
Didn't they sell it? It wasn't taken. Nobody claimed
Didn't they vote that
I don't know.
one of the parameters was, if you build a town, the people can eventually vote to essentially secede from you. But yeah, they have to pay you. But yeah,
Yeah, it's Disney owns the land.
but they lost control of the town.
Yeah.
Which is what they wanted. They wanted a town they could nurture and grow, and instead the people who loved Disney and came in and lived here immediately turned on Disney immediately and kicked them out. What do you mean?
I don't know. I think we might need some more information on that.
That wasn't willing.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't. We'll look into.
I think
it.
Disney's
don't
like,
think it was.
we don't really want to manage this town.
Maybe, but
we
I
don't
also
really
think the
wanna
people
do
were like,
this.
"You need to get out of here," and they're like, "I guess so."
They realized it was more work than they wanted, so they gave up.
Look, they're working outside of the core competency of the company, right? They're like,
But maybe it was a mistake to build it anyway.
yeah,
Maybe
we'll
it's
leave
just
it in there and we
something
can
they shouldn't have
research that.
bothered
I don't know that, despite coming to Celebration every single day of my life now, I don't know the ins and outs of exactly who did what and
We'll look into it.
whose choice
We'll
it
do
was
some
and all that
reading.
kind of stuff. But we'll do that. And it's not
How about
parks
the
related.
war with Florida?
Yeah. The Reedy Creek War.
Yeah, Beam just brought up getting rid of Reedy Creek. I don't think they got rid of Reedy Creek. I think they had to. It was one that was definitely not their choice.
Yeah, just the Reedy Creek War, the tactics that were employed there.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this. There's a lot of people that just pick a side and they're like, that's my side and that's the side that's right in this thing. It all started because Disney was giving money to everyone who sponsored a bill, right? And then when they got called on it, of the bill that probably conflicted with the views of a lot of their cast members, shareholders, everybody else,
their own people.
then they kind of went 180 degrees the opposite direction, and they managed to make everybody mad. And that was Bob Chapek's fault.
Yeah.
His handling of that is why we're in the predicament, why they're in the
He
predicament.
killed
they're in.
Reedy Creek.
Yeah, he killed Reedy Creek.
Absolutely killed Reedy Creek.
Did we have that in the Chapek all along? And I killed the Reedy Creek.
There was another we kept updating it every time he screwed something up. I think the final one is I killed Reedy Creek, and then he doesn't laugh. He goes, well, that one's not really funny. Because the first one is I killed the great movie ride, and he laughs. And I forget what the other ones are, but then the Reedy Creek was, and I killed Reedy Creek. He goes, that one's not really funny.
Yep. We did Magical Express already. Let's see.
Downtown Disney into Disney Springs. I think that can only be considered a success. I think more people go there than ever before. Pleasure Island. I mean, you want to put Pleasure Island on there, closing Pleasure Island, but it was kind of failing. Other than Adventurers Club and Comedy Warehouse, it was failing hard.
I saw someone wearing a T-shirt that said, "It's still Downtown Disney to me," and I'm like, "It's still the Village to me."
Wow. This is a weird one,
Disney
and I don't know if
Village.
this falls under the 64, but giving away the Empress Lily. Having that christened and named after Walt's family and then just giving it to Paddlefish / Fulton's and what they've done to it. I mean, it's this big gray. I don't know how you do modern architecture on a ferry boat. It's weird. It looks weird.
It looks bad.
Yeah.
It's bad looking.
That probably
I don't know if that's a
doesn't go
parks
there,
thing, but it touches the parks in ways. If you're coming to Disney to go to the parks, you're probably going to whatever it's called today, Disney Springs. So, how many names have we been through? It was the Village Shops or something like that. And it was a Disney,
Disney
Village,
Village
and Marketplace. Then it was Downtown Disney. Then it was, I don't know,
Disney Springs.
Disney Springs. So, yeah, we keep going. We go on. Yeah, getting rid of the Adventurers Club is
Pixar Pier.
Pixar Pier, huge mistake. And honestly, just kind of to go along with that, I'm tired of the park icon of that park being renamed every 3 weeks to the Fun Wheel, the Sun Wheel, the Pixar,
Mickey's Fun Wheel, Pixar Pal Around.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pixar Pal Around with that famous Pixar character,
Mickey
Mouse.
Yeah. It's stupid. And I'm sorry, we talked about it the other day. I am all for bulldozing that entire section of that park. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything from the performance corridor down. What's that?
We can't get rid of World of Color.
Yeah. You can
World
still
of
have a
Color is
lagoon.
so special.
You can still have a lagoon.
Yeah.
But everything around it needs to change.
Yeah,
I realize that
I
the
wouldn't
Pixar Pal
disagree.
Around makes a nice backdrop for that show. But it's a carnival.
Make something else nice.
Carnival Ferris wheel, basically.
Now, I will say in defense of that Ferris wheel, in defense of it, it's pretty special because there's only 2 of them in the world, the other being the Wonder Wheel with the swinging gondolas. So it's at least something interesting was done. That being said, fundamentally for Disney parks, that's not a thing that should have been built.
The thing is, this is a collection of cheap, crappy, off-the-shelf rides.
Yeah.
Right? With the exception of Incredicoaster, which also could go for all I care.
I agree.
That whole section of the park could be so much better. And you go there, and that vibe at DCA is really great, and the weather is great, and there's so many great things there to subject people to this pier, this area that is just junk. And I think we could reimagine that. We could have 5 podcast episodes of that. But almost anything you come up with will be better than what they've done. And any fix you have to what they originally did would be better than the fix they came up with.
So Mike brought up Hyperion Wharf. For those that don't know, he said, wasn't that a name also? No, it almost was, but then Hyperion Wharf was canceled in favor of the Disney Springs project. Hyperion Wharf was going to be just PI. They were going to redo Pleasure Island.
Yeah.
The art is beautiful. The concept art's beautiful. It would have been like this it would have been kind of like San Francisco, the dawn of electricity kind of
like
aesthetic.
a sort of Victorian, almost steampunky,
kind of like Discovery Bay kind of vibe.
Yeah.
If that had been built, and it looked real cool, and then they changed gears. Which, don't get me wrong, I think a little bit of what ended up being the landing is still Hyperion Wharf, but not the full realized. It's not the full vision realized.
I certainly know people who are very passionate that they should have done Westcott, but I don't know.
We'll talk about that in the DCA one. We've got DCA on there.
We got DCA.
That and Long Beach and building Disney's America in place of Knott's Berry Farm. Those are all things that were discussed. So that all fits into that discussion probably. For the 24-hour days, they were a mistake. I don't know if they're one of the 64 biggest of all time. Maybe.
Oh, I did that, and I enjoyed it.
I did too, but they were. I mean, we didn't go to the bad one. Was the Disneyland 60th kickoff where they actually closed the 5. They closed the highway. It was that many people trying to get in.
Oh no, that's not good.
Yeah, that was rough. Turning down J.K. Rowling. You know what? Sure. I'm on board with that one. That makes sense. That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Jason said that. Jason Luke Solo. It's probably not their real name. Those are all Star Wars characters.
We're almost at 64, and we're going to have more. Do you have any other big ones that stick out before we leave it to the people?
Real quick, if there's any other real big ones.
I mean, there are. We've definitely missed really big ones.
You think we've missed real big ones?
Yeah, I just can't think of what they are. What?
Figment. That was like the second.
Yeah, we talked about. We already have Figment on there.
Yeah.
Well, kind of.
I haven't been on that long. Have we even been an hour? No, but I think like since we started the pre-show, maybe an hour. But
The recording's 52 minutes.
yeah, but we're not at an hour yet. Then
We're not obligated to. This is a
I
free
like
flow
to hit
show.
an hour.
Yeah, I like to hit an hour. I don't like to hit an hour just for the sake of hitting an hour. But I'm looking around the room for any inspiration to all of that.
Walt picking up smoking.
Come on.
That's horrible.
How much longer would he have lived? The guy just ate chili every day. I don't know. Like, how much time more would we have gotten?
Do you
with him
really think he
anyway?
ate chili every day, or do you think these people distill characters, legendary figures into like what do people know about George Washington? He had wooden teeth.
There are
and then,
interviews
you know what I mean,
with
chopped down a
people
tree.
who worked with Walt Disney. There are interviews with people who worked with Walt Disney who claim that he was very much a meat and potatoes guy and very stuck in his ways. And so I think he did.
It doesn't mean he ate chili every day.
Not every day, but several times a week. I think he did.
I'm a meat and potatoes person. I eat chili twice a year.
But that was his thing, right? That's like when
someone came up with
people
Walt's chili.
When people talk about me when I'm gone, they're going to be like, every day he ate a chicken bowl from Pollo Tropical.
That is true.
Not so much lately.
Absolutely true. The chicken
The
tropic chop.
Troppy Chop is my jam. I do like that.
What we should do for the Wigs version is the worst mistakes in WDW history, but not involving people or their names.
Well, then that gets rid of all of them.
No, we've made plenty of other mistakes. Tom getting a Twitter account. That's one of them.
We could argue that Tom getting a Twitter account is the only reason we're all here. Controversy creates interest.
You can make that argument. Yeah.
I could certainly make that argument.
Are there any cruise lines that look where there's a whole segment of the company?
The Wish
The
class.
Disney Wish.
That's a good one. That's a real good one. I don't know what other mistakes they've ever made.
Like some people don't like the new island. I like the new island. Though,
I don't think it's a big enough mistake. The Wish class has become enough of a thing that people agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Wish in particular. I think people are okay. The Treasure, people are like, oh, this is much better. But yeah, there's a million things about the Wish that people
Beam
don't
said
like.
they're starting to name our biggest mistakes. Calling out Jenny in that one honest review. I've called out everybody. I don't pull punches. I don't really care. I'm allowed to have opinions. You're allowed to have opinions. We're all allowed to have opinions. So
Can I have opinions? I think so.
Yeah, why
I think
not?
so. I'm allowed.
Can I have an opinion?
what's your opinion, Katie?
I like working here.
You like working here? You're the first one.
Tom asking for his own ride vehicle.
Me asking for my own ride vehicle. We're not really going to do this, are we? Let's not.
I think the rushing to build Hollywood Studios MGM, we've kind of covered that, but actually that's two different things, right?
It wasn't a mistake, though. It was a huge success right off the bat. So it wasn't.
Row 3.
Biggest mistake. I think we've got all the big ones. I do think we have all the big ones. Crew, that was good, that Wish Class one. Yeah, we didn't do any cruise line. Disney Quest. You want to talk about mistakes? We talked about Disney Quest. You want to lump in, because it is Parks and Resorts, Disney Quest and Disney Quest Chicago. Like the Chicago one failed miserably. And was that the same team that did ESPN Zone? Was it the same? Because that could fall into there too. I think ESPN Zone fell under Parks and Resorts, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember. I've only seen pictures of Disney Quest Chicago from the outside. I don't even know what happened. I'm sure there are plenty of our viewers who went to it in Chicago, right? It's a big city. A lot of people went. Not enough people went, apparently. But.
For worst WDW and team mistakes, they said putting Jason in charge of technology, said David.
Wow. Oh boy.
Man.
That's true.
We'll
Spitting
talk
on cast members.
Stop it. Outside of this podcast, which will be seen by the entire audience, we can talk about what the Wigs tournament will be. And maybe it will be one of these things. But let's not waste more time on this show with that particular conversation. I will ask you, though. Obviously, March Madness. I will be on the panel. We don't know if you're going to be yet. What do you think?
I'm the host.
What do you think is number one?
Number one, I think that there's going to be a big movement for Great Movie Ride and for Bob Chapek. I think those are going to be probably in the Final Four if they're on opposite sides of the bracket. Me personally, obviously, like Horizons and Mr. Toad are big ones. Paid Fast Pass and reservation system are going to be big. Magical Express is very big with a lot of people. I never used it because I never flew in and got whisked away to a Disney
very
hotel.
sad.
obviously your little triumvirate there of Chapek, Paul Pressler, and Cynthia Harris.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
They're top
quite a
10
Mount
for
Rushmore of budget
Those
cutters.
three for sure. But I think I agree with you that it's going to be. I think for everyone else, it's going to be paid fast pass, reservation system, and great movie ride. I think those are the three because of recency to that too.
Yeah.
My number one is Figment, and I think I will argue to the death on this panel that that's the one with the biggest. That's the biggest mistake in history. Proves it.
I think there's a large amount of people in a community that will say Splash Mountain. Maybe some recency bias there, right?
Yeah, it's still fresh.
You know, Daz is really big for a segment of people and people who also have like compassion probably. You know, it's like
good humans.
So a lot of people that'll be big.
Someone yelled at me that I called them bad people for being glad that the DAS system was revamped.
Mm-hmm.
That people with legitimate disabilities now couldn't enjoy themselves at the park. And they're like, how dare you call me a bad person for that? I'm sorry you are. For wishing ill upon someone who in no way has affected your life negatively in any way, shape, or form. That makes you a bad person.
Well, people are quick to, in our this day, and it's as old as time, to make quick judgments about people or to create a straw man and then burn it down.
Yeah.
Of like, you saw one person abuse it, so everybody's just, everybody's just a fat person in ECV trying to get to the front line. You're like, that's not what this system addressed. The system,
and just because a couple of people did that, or even if it was a lot of people, that doesn't mean people with disabilities should be left out in the cold. That's the wrong way. That's not being a decent human, locking out people with legitimate disabilities. People with terminal cancer are being told to wait in line. Like, come on.
And now they're fighting back. People are pooping on the walls of the queue.
Good, they should.
Because they probably couldn't find a cast member to get their bathroom pass.
Maybe
so
not.
they could go back.
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
Totally could be a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think someone pooped on the wall because they wanted to.
No.
Tom?
No, I don't.
I think someone pooped on the wall because they tried to wait in a very long line and they didn't know how to get this bathroom pass that supposedly exists. To find a cast member.
Or they had the coconut water cocktail at Flower and Garden and couldn't hold it.
The coconut water and the coconut water cocktail, both huge mistakes.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Disgusting. But I think it does make you a bad person. Yeah. Some people took advantage of it, sure. But at the same time, that doesn't mean people with legitimate disabilities should be harmed. That doesn't mean their life should be more difficult because a couple of people got away with it.
I think a lot of people think that if something is flawed, that the way you fix it is to tear it completely apart and start from scorched earth.
Yeah.
And I think that works with a computer that doesn't work. Right? Sometimes you just take everything out of a computer and you put it all back together until you find out what's wrong, what piece doesn't work, and then you go, oh, look, I troubleshot a computer. It probably works with code and a lot of things, but it doesn't work with human beings.
Yeah.
And so to take that whole system and scrap it basically and ignore the human element of people that had legitimate need for disability. I mean, these people are going to keep fighting and we'll keep being a voice for them because I think it's important. And I didn't want to get on a Daz rant, but that's the reality of the situation, right? A couple people abusing a system or even if it was fairly widespread, which look, they said the size of this list tripled over time. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you ignore people that have legitimate needs.
Yeah.
And there are people with legitimate needs. And what we've done is we have a system that is somehow enforced unevenly, right? Your mileage may vary based on who you talk to, what your condition is, and all this. And quite often people are told, hey, we're not going to give you your DAS, but you can talk to the person at the attraction and see if they can give you an accommodation. So what we're doing is we're taking medical stuff and we're pushing that decision all the way down to our lowest paid frontline cast members.
Who are not paid enough to deal with that. If we're being honest, they already deal with enough that no human should have to deal with it in a theme park or similar environment. But to put into their hands the decision whether someone needs assistance or not is
that way I can wash my hands as a higher up, as someone higher in the chain, and be like, I didn't tell them they couldn't go on the ride.
Nonsense.
The cast member at the attraction told them that.
To sell a couple more lightning.
That is BS.
To sell a few more lightning.
The overall motivating factor for this is selling lightning.
Yeah.
And that's why for me, maybe paid fast pass makes the final four. maybe that is one of the worst things. And you can, I also have a stratification, the tiered guest levels, the kind of class warfare thing. Those are maybe, sort of two things that are the same but different.
Yeah.
But those are, and they will tie to Daz too. There could be a whole bracket just of those guys and let them fight it out.
This is good. There's two things here real quick. We're going to end on these.
Thank you, Wiggs.
Jason wrote this, the loss of no longer caring about sight lines. I think along those lines, like Paul said at the event, the mixtape, putting attractions where they make no sense, no longer caring about theme and story and place and just plopping things. And then Guardians comes into that conversation then, the Mission Breakout. I think those are two important things,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it. We've got a good list going, and
But
we're
we can
willing to
keep it
modify
going.
this list, bump stuff off the list if we find better. We're going to find better ideas from the community.
Someone will have
right?
something. Yeah.
We're just two guys with microphones, so I want to hear your ideas, and and the Wigs. Obviously, we're going to get a lot out of there. We'll try to curate a list out of that and keep it going. Then Tom will inevitably seed them
And get yelled at.
and get yelled at for
No one ever
seeding
likes
them
my
improperly. And
Every year I get yelled at for my seating. This should have been higher. Okay, well, someone had to make this list, and we have that deadline. So let's keep it.
I will just second guess from the host desk. That's my favorite.
I
thing
know
to
you
do.
get to do it. The rest of them don't.
I don't know if I have a broadcast partner this year yet. So
We'll
I'm
find
gonna
out. We'll see how it's going.
Look, thanks for joining us. Please chip in. Let us know in the comments what you think. And we appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next time on the WDW News Today podcast.
We'll see you real soon.